Toyota GR Yaris. It's the car of the moment, isn't it? And I've been looking forward to this a great deal. We've got Bedford Autodrome all to ourselves and this very special little car. Now, probably like me, you've already digested an awful lot of information on it. So I'm not going to drone on about the spec, but just as a little recap, 1.6 litre, 3-cylinder turbo, 260 horsepower, 265 pound-foot of torque, 6-speed manual gearbox, manual only, hooray! Full-time four-wheel drive setup, electronically controlled centre diff. This is a circuit pack equipped car, so we've got limited slip diffs front and rear and stiffer suspension. Yeah, it's a Yaris, but the lamps are Yaris, the mirrors are Yaris, the tail lights are Yaris. I think that's about it really. It's lower, it's got a CFRP roof, aluminium doors, aluminium bonnet. It's a special thing. It's a homologation special in the truest sense of that phrase. Let's find out what it's like on the track and then set a lap time. Nothing quite like a four-wheel drive launch start. A little bit naughty, but the asphalt's cold, so we'll get away with doing it just once, I reckon. So, GR Yaris, where to start? First thing, what strikes you initially is how gutsy it feels, how quick it is. Little 1.6 litre triple, but wow, it's really got some fire to it, especially in the mid-range. Get to about 3,000 or 4,000 RPM, put your foot down and it's just there instantly. Or there it is again, third gear. You can just really feel it pull out of those tighter corners. This engine was developed specifically for this car, and I think that shows. We're told it's really cutting edge, and the results it gets from a small capacity are outstanding. Then again, I mean, this car weighs what, around 1,300 kilos, so that's pretty light. Okay, not necessarily for a small car, but for a car that packs in all that four-wheel drive setup, I still think that's pretty admirable. So I've set off in sport mode for the centre diff. There's also a 50-50 split called track mode. Now, that ratio might lead you to believe that it turns this little car into a real oversteer monster, but it's not actually the case. You can't get into a slow corner, get on the gas hard and early and expect to leave with half a turn of opposite lock. It's just not that sort of machine. It's more about traction, and it's surprisingly neutral. If you want it to really move around, you have to provoke it. I'm braking hard into the hairpin here. Hazards on, it's a bit annoying. I'm going to put it down into second, get on the gas early. As you can probably hear, if not feel, it's almost like the locking effect of the diff is rather weak. It starts to spin up rather than kick the tail wide, but there's no faulting the actual traction. And there, look, it's just on the cusp of understeer. If I keep my foot in, it's not going to suddenly start oversteering. It's more liable just to gently understeer, in fact. So to really feel the car move around, you've got to provoke it. It's coming to this chicane on the brakes. Really start to get the weight moving. Fast left now. Go, come in 90 mile an hour, the final right, let's whoa. You've got to chuck it around to really feel this car's inner character, if you like. It does have that side to it. It's not a side that you really see on the road because you just can't access it. But if you can provoke it enough, you can have a real laugh with it. And it does move around quite a lot, although it's not the easiest of cars to control when it is sliding, and I think that's basically, it's a small car, it's a short wheelbase. If you try and get into a transition, it really flicks back the other way fast. So what don't I like about this GR Yaris? Well, I don't like the noise it makes, and I don't mean the exhaust noise, not that you can hear much of that, but that's fine. I just don't like this augmented artificial noise that it makes. I think if it were my car, I'd have to get rid of that with a bit of ECU twickery, pretty smartish. I'm not a huge fan of the steering, and I think this is something that applies more to the car on the road. You just don't notice it so much on a circuit, but the whole ethos of the way the car has been set up is about maximum traction. And when you turn, I would just like a little bit more of that sort of traditional front end hot hatch adjustability, where the front digs in and the whole car pivots, and it's just not that sort of car. Now, is that a bad thing? Well, not necessarily. I mean, it's personal taste, isn't it? Some people will like the way this drives, but if I could use the analogy, the way it feels is it's more old school Impreza than it is old school Mitsubishi Evo. It doesn't have the old Evo's laser guided precision and sharpness to the steering. It might just be a setup thing. What else don't I like? Well, I tell you one thing I really don't like, and that's this seating position. Now, I'm quite tall, but it doesn't work for me at all. It's actually a really good seat. There's nothing wrong with the seat at all, but it's set so high. I feel like my head's in the clouds, and I have to sort of hang on. I'm getting thrown around in the cabin with the cornering forces. Worst of all, though, my knee bashes the steering column, so heel and towing becomes a real mission, which I think when we do the time lap in a bit, it's going to be a bit more of a struggle. Down the box into the chicane, I have to say, this 6-speed manual is a real joy to use. It's got a lovely, accurate shift quality. Just shows you a well-developed manual. Just makes the car, the involvement that it gives you. Also, I'm really impressed with the brakes. They're great on the road, but they're really standing up here as well. Those giant front discs resisting fade. It's really impressive. Okay, time to get the lap time. Got it in track mode, prioritising traction out the corners over ultimate entertainment. We'll see what happens. So there you have it. We've looked at the data, and the GR Yaris does about a 1 minute 24.5 seconds around here. It's a really good time. That's about a second off a Renault Sport Megane Trophy R. Perhaps the biggest hindrance to going quicker is the tyres. If you put some Michelin Cup 2s, you'd easily gain a second. But look, the GR Yaris, it's not about lap times. This is a great car. It's the sort of car that for years we were told from manufacturers that no one would want. They couldn't make it, it would be too expensive. There was no market. We've heard all the excuses. And yet Toyota have gone and done it, and they've proved all those doubters wrong. The GR Yaris is a great homologation special. It's not perfect. There are a few things that maybe could be tweaked to be even better, but overall, it's a great car.